cook like salads, rock to reggae, bass to ballad.
Turn it up. You're listening to Live and Loud with the Lord, Nelson, that is.
Breathe, 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 breathe. Yeah. Woo. Breathe, 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 breathe. Yeah. Breathe, feel alive again, baby, baby. Breathe, feeling right again, feeling so right, baby, baby. Come on now. Inhale the love, exhale the hate.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you know who it is. It's the big guy with the little show. The big guy with the little show. And I have a very special guest. And when I say I have a very special guest, I've known this young lady for a very long time. We kind of grew up together. She's just like really unbelievable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my notes here so I can read some stuff off so we can just big her up in the biggest of ways because she's just doing amazing things. So let me do my thing. I can still read pretty well. You know, we went to Northeast, so I can read pretty well. So she's an educator, president and CEO, a lover of sports, and has played an integral part in many of the big sporting events you may love and support, from the NFL, NBA, WNBA, NASCAR, LPGA, PGA, FIFA, Olympics, and many more committees and associations around the world. She's an all-world cover girl, and I'm honored to have her on my show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Miss Nichelle Gainey. And I had to clap her up because she's all that. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for being here, young lady.
Well, you know, it's always an honor to come back home, right?
Come back home. Wow,
come back where it all got started and where it all began.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So, you know, I have been watching you and just so proud of what you're doing and who you're touching. So thank you for having me on today.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So, starting off, first two questions I always like to ask. First question is, where are you originally from?
You know, that's a good question. We, as military brats, we all, anytime you ask a military brat where they're from, they always pause.
Right.
And so a person from a civilian world doesn't understand because they're like, well, what do you mean you don't know where you're from?
Right.
You know, I had, the opportunity and pleasure to be born into a military family, travel the world lived out throughout Europe. So when people say, where are you from? I consider myself a citizen of the world because if I look at the longest place that I've ever lived was when I went to college and I spent 4 years of my matriculation growing up, and I went to 3 different high schools, as you know, coming back and forth. So when that question is asked, I always hate to ponder a long answer, and I just say, a citizen of the world.
Citizen of the world. Listen, I can deal with that because we know how it is.
Yes, I know you know.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, I'm not even going to go to the next question because I always ask, like, what's the best thing about there? But we don't have to ask that question.
What's the best thing about what?
Being from where you're from. But
you know what? I think you should ask that. I think the best thing about being a citizen of the world, you have a chance. You don't meet a stranger, right? You have the ability to quickly adapt and to make friends from all ethnic and diverse backgrounds.
Yes.
And so I think that's a great question to ask, like, and it also helps shape and mold who you are today. And you don't realize that until you meet other individuals who didn't, and then you realize how rich your life has been by having that type of exposure. And I used to be, when people would ask me where I was from, I was embarrassed. Because I would say, Dad, everybody's been in their high school for 4 years, and here I am. I went to Northeast, and then we moved around, and I came back when he retired. So I think that's a great question to ask. So thanks for asking.
So, one of the other questions was, how do we know each other? But we know each other from Fort Jackson, of course, and going to school together. And I'm just a little bit older than you, like 2-3 years older than you, maybe.
I'm forever 21, so you might be an old man.
Listen, it's all up.
And, I think you need to preference. When people say, "Well, how do you know each other?" There's a difference. So just because we lived in the same community doesn't mean we know each other. We both had strict parents, right?
Yes, indeed.
And so our parents were always about who your mom and them, right? Who's your dad? Who's your mom? Do I know them? Where do they live? Right. So just for your listeners, when you say we know each other, we know our families approved of each other to hang out with each other. So that's a big difference when you talk about being raised on a military base. Yeah. Like there's a whole lot of people, but there's a whole lot of people our parents would not let us talk to unless we saw them in school. So I just want to preference that we know each other because we were vetted.
Yes, indeed. Look at you, man.
Through our family and our siblings, because everybody got to like you in order to either hang out together.
Indeed. So what do you remember most about Fort Jackson?
You know what? I remember, being in the sixth grade. Mm-hmm. I remember the Martins. Pam Martin was my best friend. You remember it? Yeah, all of Sterling. Pam was my best friend. And so we were like thick and thieves. And so no one could mess with us. And so it was like the Gainey Five and the Martins. And I think there was another family and people would be like, there's a whole lot of y'all, right? There's a whole lot of y'all. But I remember Fort Jackson as being safe. I remember Fort Jackson as being a culture that is undefined by any else that I've been to, and I remember, the enlisted kids and the officer kids, we mingled together. So I look at where we are today and what's happening today. It's so foreign because it was almost like a Dr. Seuss book, right? Mm-hmm. If you lived in Fort Jackson. We all met up at the skating rink. We didn't care who your father's rank was. We didn't care if it was a private to a general. Right. We all met up at the skating rink. And I tell you, those were some of the best days that I can remember. Yes. And it was when you had a disagreement, it was, if somebody got upset, it's nothing that you hear today. And then everybody's talking the next day. Right. Indeed. Yeah. So I remember it being a great foundation for sports, mm-hmm. That's where we all played in the DYA, Division of Youth, of youth service, youth DYA activities. Yes. And our parents will be at every single game. Right. And I would remember, being on Fort Jackson when our parents would volunteer because either your mom was stay-at-home moms, and I would always say, man, I wish my mom would get a job so she would stop volunteering, being a chaperone. Right. Right. Full circle to this day. So I look back and I'm very proud of my experience and honored to have had the time to grow up on Fort Jackson in the time that we did. Yeah, it's like with music and things like that. It's like a time machine. And I get on the phone with Sterling or Wayne or Gerald or Wayne Hayes.
Yes, indeed. I mean, we're all still close. We all still talk. And it's just like, we're family forever.
They're family. They're family.
Things have not changed. We just laugh and we clown and we still talk about everybody and we reminisce. And, when we may not have seen each other for months or talked to each other for months, but the moment that we talk to each other, it's like we just saw each other yesterday. So it's just a beautiful thing. So,
it is a beautiful thing.
So let me say this. Greg said he remembers when you guys drove into Bremer Court the first time in a brown van. Now, how accurate is it?
I don't know if the van was brown. I think the van was green, but I think he is very accurate because, we lived on Bremer Court, and you tell Greg that that van used to, because my brother was in high school, right? So that van used to take us all to Godfather's Pizza after a football game, Friday night football game. So Greg is more than accurate. He just got the color wrong. Just tell him to blame it on his cataracts.
Awesomeness. So now I'm going to dig into something. I remember my court, which is Faison Court.
Yes,
right up from
Faison.
you guys. You play your court in football behind your house on Fort Jackson.
That's right.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
I remember. It's a big, yes, I do remember. Actually, I remember when my brother got in a fight and everybody came around and watched my brother get in a fight. And I was just like, yeah, my brother. And then I'm not sure how it went out. I don't think he was a victor, but
which one?
But everybody, it was like, okay,
which brother?
It was done and everybody's still friends.
Which brother?
William.
Okay, so you say William, I will say Bill, you know.
Yeah, I say Bill. You know, he gets mad when I call him Bill, but he's going to always be Bill.
Does he? So
yeah.
William, he knows.
William, he's now so mature. I think he thinks he's a part of Buckingham Palace. Now he's still Bill to me.
But that's what we grew up calling him. So William, hello, Bill. Young man.
It's he's just a Bill sitting on Capitol Hill. Yeah, he's still Bill.
Okay, so the Gainey family.
The Gainey family.
You were extremely intelligent. Now, this is my perspective, and I'm just going to speak on it. I'm being me. You guys were extremely intelligent and athletic, and you all have gone on to be super successful in your chosen fields. So is it safe to say all of you got that intelligence and athleticism from your amazing parents?
I would say we had my mother was an extremely brilliant woman, as you know. She was a stickler on grammar and literacy, so she made sure that we got our work done before we did our extracurricular activities.
Right.
And my father, who was also a smart man, he believed that staying active, definitely keeps you out of trouble, and staying involved. And so, when I look at extraordinary, ordinary parenting, and I think, many people would say even Keith Hayes and many more on other bases would credit my mother for the reason why they attended college and where they are today. Because my mom was, it was, if you were a friend of my brothers, like, I got 3 brothers and a sister. If you were friends with anyone, it was you had to be accepted by all of us. So you became, so it's, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like Pam was my friend. She was, when Pam came over and if I wasn't there, she's hanging out with my sister, my mom, my dad, and I'm walking in. So when you came over, you became a part of our family.
Right.
And, and so I think that's a very unique thing. And so I credit a lot of the competition in my family came from just when people would always say to me, they were like, what is, they said, how did you become, what you become? I said, if you talk about competition, I looked at my family, and we competed against each other. And I think by competing with each other made us great, and the military has a way of, when you move places and not know anyone, we were all close in age that we never felt like we needed anybody. And people, like we'll go to a basketball court. We had a basketball team with just our family, and people joined in, and that's how, and that's how it has always been. So I'm glad you brought it up because you're making me think about memories. And I'm sitting here saying maybe we should write a book about being a military brat, because it has definitely shaped and molded us, of who we are today. And I think
I thought about
even my brothers, they always credit, how they grew up is why they're so successful.
Yeah, I always tell my wife that my wife's family was just like you guys also. There was 11 of them. So it was like they love each other. They love hard. They would go against each other and stuff like that. So when you say that, yes, indeed, whatever you say, that's a beautiful thing. It really is. And growing up as a, Army brat, a military kid, was just, I don't know. I just think it's one of the greatest things ever. And
it's one of the greatest. And it's it's a exclusive club that's very unique.
Right.
And you can't tell, anybody that's never had that experience, you just feel it, right?
Right.
You just, and then it takes over, how you're able to adapt and adjust, and how things are not so black and white, and things can be gray, and you can still figure out the gray,
Right.
and you don't get caught up in, with the different diverse and backgrounds that are out there. You don't get stuck feeling like you don't belong.
Right.
Because I never thought about that. And I remember vividly when I started going to, high school. Once you leave the military, where you're sheltered, you start going to the civilian school. And I remember someone said to me, was asking me, well, who's the girl sitting next to you? And I was describing her. Oh, she has red hair, she has freckles, she wore a black shirt. And people said, oh, you mean a white girl? And I was like, what? I was dumbfounded, because
Yes.
we never looked at people as white,
Right.
black, Asian, Hispanic. We didn't call people out or Jewish.
Right.
It was just they were my friend.
Yeah. I want to say this to you. Thank you for saying that, because a lot of times I try to explain to people how I feel and why I feel like I feel, and why I feel like you can drop me in any situation around anybody and I'm good.
I'm good.
Here I am in this, when I went out to this rock and rap metal thing, and it's just a beautiful thing, but it was just like a lot of people were like, are you sure you're going to be able to deal? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because the things that they were talking about, it never crossed my mind.
Never crossed my mind.
It was about the music. And I was just like, I don't even understand what you guys are talking about. I said, growing up, I listened to everything, so I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even understand that. Right. So I'm glad you said that, because that's really, because that's how I feel. That's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Yeah,
anyway, listen, I'm not going to get too emotional. You're going to get me emotional on that, because I appreciate you saying that. I really do. I really do. So are you 4 or 5, or are you 3 or 5?
I am 3 of 5. I'm the middle.
You're older than Andy?
By a year. By a year.
I always wondered. I was just like, wait a minute.
Andy was born in September. I was born in May.
Okay.
And Sean is born in April. So Sean is like 11 months. My dad kept my mom barefoot and pregnant. They had to figure this thing out, because we could have been a tribe of 12.
Right, it did. I feel you. So Andy was born in September. What day in September?
Andy was born September 4th.
Oh, so September to me is the greatest month in the world, because my mom is born on September 6th, my dad on the 9th, my sister on the 1st, her daughter on the 2nd, my cousin on the 2nd. I'm on the 28th. It was just my birthday. Yes, indeed. I had a great time. I just finished celebrating.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you very, very much. Family was here. It's all love. But September just continues to go on and on and on. I can continue. I don't have to stop. It's just that many, family members. I always say that we're celebratory children, because we count back 9 months. That's Christmas, Thanksgiving time, sometime around in there, something was going on. So,
I know. I tell you, we love birthdays, so birthdays are, and I used to be like, I'm so glad I wasn't born in November or December, because I get robbed on my Christmas gifts. But I'm good.
So now let's get into talk about what you're doing right now. See, all of that was just that was for me. All the history and reminiscing and stuff, that was for me. So thank you. So let's talk about the great Nichelle Gainey and all of the things she has accomplished. So you're a very educated young lady. What school or schools did you attend, and what was your major?
I attend undergrad, Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University, where my family, on my mother's side's 5 generations.
Really?
I majored in chemistry with aspirations of going to medical school, being an orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
Science and sports. It's interesting because my brothers and sister were the brainiacs in the family. So I was me. I was that kid. I just wanted to hang out with my friends. I wanted to play sports, and so I think I was one out of the Gaineys. I was the one let me see. I can't find my charger. I think I was the one. Everybody was like, "Lord," my dad's like, "She going somewhere, either Army or something." When I was applying to school, and I
Right.
really excelled academically when I went to college, and
Yes.
so science was always a math and science person. So I majored in chemistry and graduated, and I taught AP chemistry, and then I got my a master's in chemistry from Florida State.
Right.
And then I went on and worked on my business administration, and I did a couple leadership classes out of Boston at Harvard.
Yeah.
And so, and so that's my education. So I was a swimmer, and I was a student athlete in college too.
Right.
And I swam for Alabama A&M.
Awesome.
Yeah. I can do everything. You know me, I was playing football.
Yes, I know.
They didn't have enough girls to play, so I would be playing on the same team with my brothers. I remember when Andy sat the bench in flag football, and I played over him, and he never got a trophy. He finally got a trophy. But look at him today. He's now a general. So out of all that to say, two generals in a family. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I didn't even want to, go into all that.
Yeah, but that's a story for another day.
Yes, indeed. Because when I say successful, everybody's successful. Just another level. And anyway, we'll get to that. But just like you say, my daughter, my twin daughter, she has a twin brother. And the same way, she excelled when she got to college. And so she's got a master's, and now she's working on her doctorate.
Yes.
And it's just love just to see her doing her thing. She's down at Georgia Tech now.
She's at Georgia. She's right here by me.
Yeah, she was at Georgia, but now she's at Georgia Tech. And so she's working down there and working on a doctorate. So it's just like it's just love that she's handling her business and doing her thing.
Well, you gotta when you come visit her, you gotta make sure you see me, because I'm right here in I'm right here in Atlanta too.
Yeah, no doubt. My sister lives down there. I have a few people down in Atlanta now.
Yeah, I can spy her over. So that is. Yeah, well, good. Congratulations to you.
Yeah. They're all doing well. My oldest daughter's a cardiovascular perfusionist here at Lexington Hospital. She's doing great. My son's down in Atlanta with his twin sister, and he works online. He's doing well also. Of course, I talked to you before about it. He played ball over in Iceland for a minute. And then he came back, and he just loves sports and just still doing his thing. He plays in some league down there in Atlanta now.
Oh, wow.
But they, basketball, our family was definitely basketball.
Yeah, that's right. Because I remember. Yeah, I said, that's fantastic. I tell you, it's, look at the kids and how they're growing up. It's like they're surpassing us.
And they're supposed to. And, because that's one thing my father told me a long time ago. He said, I'm not saying you're better than me. He said, but be better than me.
Be better than me.
And so I was just like, I took that to heart. And it was amazing to hear him say, when I got married, he said, I've watched you. And he said, you've made me a better father. That was kind of crazy to me, but, it was like, wow. I was like, I appreciate that. But it's like, anyway. Don't let me get emotional. So chemistry, that means you had to have a love for math. So how has your degree in chemistry helped you along your path of success?
You know what? I think in many ways, analytically, problem solving, being very creative, and being able to grasp a concept, and also, as you're looking at how everything is evolving, the evolution of artificial intelligence and how that comes about, and how sports performances is always very critical within, and how athletes are performing faster and greater, right. and then looking at all of that and how it's marketing and how it's marketed and how it's transforming in this today and age of technology. So I feel like everything that I have has prepared me for, just going a step above where I am in my industry and just looking at it in a very holistic and in a very creative standpoint. And how do you add all of these uniqueness into making it your own.
Indeed. So you are the president and CEO of Silverstone International.
Yes.
So please tell us about the genesis of your company.
Yeah, I started my company. I worked in education. I worked in developing, science of sports concepts. What you see today on ESPN, we've developed a concept like that in Florida. And so in the process of how I started a company, and it's really crazy. So I have friends who are very excel in their profession. So I always said, you know what, we're going on vacations. Why don't we just start a company so we don't have to spend our money and we can do odd service? I had a girlfriend that was EOC judge, had a girlfriend that was PhD in education.
Right.
And, I had the marketing and creative background. But we all know everyone is not entrepreneurial. Right. And so, in being the leader I am, so I went and created everything, got it set up. And I remembered my mom would always say, well, you started this company. What are you going to do with it? And I really and it started by accident. Sometimes, they said, you have opportunities in being prepared.
Right.
And what I traditionally started a company for, it ended up being something totally different. Mm-hmm. So I remember having an opportunity when I was working with the NCAA and the athletic commissioner at an athletic conference, and having an opportunity to talk to other people globally. And I was invited to come down to Germany and meet with some people. And I remember going back at an athletic conference and said, hey, can I take this time off? Because, here's an opportunity, and I always thought I was going to be the president of a NFL team, an owner of an NFL team, so that, so people would always say, well, why did you start doing athletics? Is because I wanted to learn everything about sports. I wanted to learn everything about football, the development of football. And what better way to do it is learning it from a collegiate level under the platform of the NCAA. Mm-hmm. And so in doing that, I found that it was, that I was isolated in getting to do some of the bigger sports like football. And so I was thrown soccer. And so it was a sport that nobody wanted to work. They kind of felt like, how Oprah may have felt when they said you can do community stuff, and she was able to turn it into something of a brand that is unfathomable today. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, so when I look at that, I look at how I took something like soccer, and which is called Football Around the World, and started, talking about, the inspections, regulations, and was invited. And I met someone who was the chairman of the FIFA World Cup not FIFA World Cup. He was the chairman of the 2006 Germany World Cup. And so ended up coming over there. They invited me over. And I remember going back and saying, hey, I wanted to take some time. And they were like, no, I don't think you're going to take some time off. And so I took a leap of faith. And that's kind of how Silverstone International was birthed.
Right. Well, so that kind of pushed you into doing something. They kind of like,
and
like, I'm gone.
And it was kind of neat, because guess what I said? I said to myself, well, I can always teach. If it don't work out, I can always teach. Right. And I remember it was the summer, and my brother Andy was a captain at that time, and he was living in Germany. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I said, I'll see my brother. I go see that, and I didn't officially launch the company then, but I met enough people there. And I remember when I came back, one of the guys who was VP of ESPN, and I said, well, maybe I'll just work for ESPN. And I remember I went to go see him. And at the time I was living in Alabama, and they said to me, there's nothing a company from Alabama could do for me. Wow. And that's when I said, I'm going to show them. And then I took my company and I built it into a global brand today.
Wow. You said it's nothing. Listen, people's opinions and perspectives about what can be done And you know how you just standing up for women and just letting it be known that anybody can do anything that they set their minds to do.
Yes.
And so that's crazy awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And I can tell you where I was when it was said. I was in New York, and so when that happened, I said to myself, wow, it's kind of like you kind of look stunned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all have stories.
Right.
When when people always say, you want to know who your friends are, start a business, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you kind of look at, what's out there in starting, because I my father was an entrepreneur. I mean, he was military, but entrepreneur after he got out of the military.
Right.
My mother's family owned their own land. They, I remember when I was young, and they always taught us that our parents are sharecroppers.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had said that because my mother went to Spelman.
Right.
And my mother was rolling her eyes. And I was like, Mom, what did I say wrong? I'm thinking I said something wrong because my mother's a grammar. She's all about grammar and literacy. Mm-hmm. And she was like, because I remember saying, I'm a granddaughter of a sharecropper. And my grandmother was upset because she was like, we were not sharecroppers.
Right.
We were farmers. We owned our own land.
That's a difference.
And I think it's very important that, what is sometimes that the teachings of what goes on in schools sometimes are not accurately correct when it comes to describing a segment or a sector of people in its family. And I just remember being in school and being taught that, we were all shared, that if your parents or grandparents survived during that time that you were a child of a sharecropper. And I just, and so I was corrected. So I believe entrepreneurship was always something that runs in the bones and the fabric of who we are. And I've always taken risks. And I'm not saying it's easy, but you have to have an appetite for entrepreneurship.
Yes, everybody's
the good, the bad, but when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it can be. But I always say you have to be able to execute at all levels and when necessary. And I've been very fortunate that we have been successful.
Yeah, you've got a good foundation to build upon, and family wise, schooling wise, and so it's a good thing. And every time, once again, just when I see you guys doing what you do, it's like, we still feel that family bond. And just like, we may not have conversations, but just know that we are looking and saying like, hey, congratulations. Because there's nothing ever, I don't understand how people can hate somebody else's success. I want $1 billion just like everybody else wants $1 billion. But just because you have $1 billion and I don't, that doesn't mean I'm mad with you or I hate you for it. And I just can't understand that. I just think that the way we grew up, it allows us to see things differently. That's just my personal opinion. And
I don't know if what people's religious beliefs are, but they talk about it in the biblical scriptures of that same thing, right? You're only stronger united together, and so you have to have a very strong base, and then you have the people that you have around you. It has to be a group of people that are what I always say, trusted, tried, and true. Group of people that you have around you in order for you to be guided in the successes and to where you end up. So, I have very critical brothers who don't mind telling me what I need to hear, even if I don't like it. And so it's up to me to kind of evaluate that. And I know that my family always has my best interests.
Yes,
so I'm very fortunate for that.
All I know is that I every time I picture Sean and William and Andy and just laughing with them, and I know they thought that I was a clown and crazy, just me being me, but it was all love though. Well,
they crazy, they clown, and them. They don't talk to a lot of people. You know how they are.
No. It was all beautiful. I still, if I see Sean today, I would laugh with him. If I see William again, I say it like that. But if I see William and Andy, but it was just still it's great to know you guys and just all of us growing up together was just good. Northeast was good.
It was good, right?
It really was. It really was. So, young lady, 18 plus years of sports management. How much have you enjoyed this chapter of your life?
Wow, you know what? I consider myself to be lucky to be able to have met the type of people that I have met. And I don't know, can you hear me? Let me see. Yeah, I'm just honored to have had the opportunity to meet the type of people that I've been able to meet and form friendships and lasting business relationships, and in the places that I've been able to travel because of my work. As you know, in life, as you start to look in your totality of where you are, you start to think about people who are very special to you. And, when you lose people that are near and dear to you, you start to think about, what you have accomplished and, what your legacy is going to be. Right. And, I love what I do. And I know that what I do, I travel a lot. And so as I look back, once someone said, what is your legacy going to, what is your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be? And I look at my mom and I look at my sister and I look at my dad. These are, people that were very dear to me, and challenging moving forward without them has been quite difficult. But as I look at them, and I want to make sure that in every person that I meet, and that I'm able to touch and to influence. And those that I influence, I hope that in my encounters that they're able to remember and take something from encountering their encounters with me, and do bigger and greater things. And so, as a role model, as an activist, as a philanthropist, I'm hoping that my legacy reaches beyond the borders and where I came and how I grew up on Bremer Court in Fort Jackson. That I continue to inspire a new generation of women and young girls to believe and dare to dream bigger than where they are today. And I'm hoping, as I, as being the only female that worked on the World Cup committee from America, Black female, I'm hoping that we don't start saying only anymore. So these are areas that were challenging, but I was able to, how I'm built, I was able to endure those challenges. And I don't think most people are able to endure some of the challenges people face, like, and what I call it's considered the pivot. Yeah. Most folks don't know how to pivot when they're stuck.
Right.
And that's a, that's a skill. And I can honestly say I have never compromised my values and beliefs to be successful. Mm-hmm. And I know in my challenges, things may have taken longer because I had to pivot and do things that are different that I wouldn't have to compromise. Right. And so I'm here to say, no matter, you can still maintain your femininity, whatever you classify yourself in your, in your gender, you don't have to lose who you are. Right. To accept and then, to embrace who you are and move forward to who you are. Right. And that's what I'm hoping that we all, not just me, that we are creating a trail that is less traveled, but opening up for those to really make an impactful legacy.
You have been instrumental in fostering relationships from sports to government. Has there been one accomplishment that stands out above all others? It's going to be hard.
One accomplishment. There's many. Yeah. So I would think that accomplishment that I'm very proud of is my role that I played within the 2010 FIFA World Cup.
Yes.
And the reason that stands out for me because in working on that in 2007, many people said it would never happen. And I remember I would get on a plane, head to South Africa, and people would say, why are you wasting your time? That is never going to happen. And I was able to, work on the marketing, the media, I was able to do a lot of different things to really polish some of my skill set from a global standpoint. I was able to do for working on the 2010 FIFA World Cup, and also working with ESPN on further reaching their relationships and increasing the value of their branding on the continent.
Gotcha.
And as I look at it today, and I look at where we are today, because of the work that I went into and also concentrating on why HBCUs and African Americans were so, we should be focused on businesses doing more business on the continent. When you look at programs like NBA Africa when the NBA decided to go into Africa, all of this NBA Africa, NBA is now looking to do things. So when you're looking at everything happen, we were a part of an opportunity that created a blueprint of what everyone's looking at today.
Right.
So if I say one of my biggest accomplishments is making people see the continent greater than what they have read, and increasing an opportunity for a developing middle and upper class of individuals living on a continent.
Awesome.
From an economic empowerment standpoint, and also creating more opportunities for women and men. And so this year, I am launching a fund that will help women and girls on the continent.
That is awesome. I mean, you're doing so much, and listen, we're just really touching the surface, honestly. And we don't have time to go through all of that. I have to keep it for a few days or weeks or whatever, but it's just a beautiful thing. So you have traveled the world and met heads of state, owners of billion-dollar franchises, and A-list sports superstars, too long to name. So does your Army brat upbringing keep you grounded?
It does keep me grounded because, as an Army brat, we put our pants on just like 1 foot at a time, like everybody else.
Yeah.
So when you are in the likes of someone like a LeBron James, or a Condoleezza Rice, or a head of state, I'm trying to think of like a Gaddafi, that was an interesting encounter when I met him. But when you are in the presence of those, it's not a starstruck feeling. Sometimes you got to pinch yourself that, wow, I'm amongst, of what people perceive, but we don't waver. You know what I mean? You don't waver from, they had opportunities to help shape their career to how they got there. And I feel like I had the same too. I may not have it at that level, but I'm in the same rooms too. So we have an opportunity to be in a room, and it's what you do when you're in a room is what's going to carry you. That's what's going to allow you to stay. What you produce, how you execute allows you to stay.
That's just awesome that you're saying that. You speaking and just saying a lot of the things that I believe, because I just believe I can be around anybody, and I don't think anybody's greater than me. I don't care who they are, how much money they have. I just feel like I'm who I am. It's just like you looking at me like I'm looking at you. Yeah, and it's like, okay, you might have this much amount of money, but listen, you're a man, just like I am, or you're a woman, and we're human beings. And that's how I look at it. Just like you said, one pants leg at a time. Listen, it's all love.
Yeah. There's only one person that I was only speechless with one person in my life. And that was when I met Madiba, Nelson Mandela.
Right.
And I was also one of 5 Americans that were invited to a private burial they had when he passed away.
I saw that.
And I said, this is what it must, when, being released from prison, and it was a line of honor of people watching the casket. And I was with the premier of Hawktane, and I'm in the car following Mandela's casket all the way to his home, that they were preparing the ritual. In burying him from his traditional burial.
Right.
And as I think about that experience, that experience is something that I will treasure for a lifetime, that I was able, and I remember I almost didn't go. And I spoke to Ambassador Young. I said, Ambassador Young, I've been on 4 continents in 5 days. I'm exhausted. They were doing a burial at the cathedral in DC, and Ambassador Young was speaking. And I figured, well, I'll just go to that. And so Ambassador Young said to me, he said, Nichelle, if you have been invited, to be invited is a very special thing. He said, if I wasn't an old man, he said, I would go. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, that means you have enough time to grab some clothes and catch a flight this evening.
Indeed, don't miss out.
And I did, and that was the best decision I've ever made. Was flying off the cuff, and I went to that and experienced. And there I met Oprah and Richard Branson and all those folks. But yeah, so that was a special moment, and that's why I had to retract. And I said, if anyone has ever made me speechless, it was meeting Nelson Mandela.
Okay, yeah. So I always said there was 3 people that I wanted to meet. It was Quincy Jones. I always wanted to meet Prince, may he rest in peace. But Prince is like, Prince Rogers Nelson. So I always used to tell my kids and everybody that we were related. And so everybody's like, you related to Prince? I said, once, like, it's Prince Rogers Nelson, we're really related. And Russell Simmons.
Oh, Russell Simmons.
So see, I know you're busy, so you haven't seen it. So my wife has twice gotten in touch with Russell Simmons, and he has called and wished me a happy birthday.
Wow.
He sent a video the first time. And so for my birthday just a few days ago, he actually came on the podcast. My son and my wife, it was a ruse to fake me out. And then the next thing I know, my son takes the phone and he's just like, hey, we got somebody right here that wants to. And I was just like, man, I was like, at first I was just so confused. I thought it was just a picture. And then he started talking. I was like, maybe they got a video. And then he was like, hey, another, trip around the sun, I was like, oh my God. And then, I was just like, man, but my wife and my kids are just unbelievable. It was a beautiful thing. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Oh, well, good for you.
Yeah, so Russell Simmons, then he said he will be on my show also. I'm just thankful. I'm so thankful.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. My life is a beautiful one. I really, I'm happy.
Yes, you are. You can tell the success of his man by his children.
I'm thankful. Yes, indeed. So, what is the most exciting and fulfilling aspect of what you do?
What is the most exciting and fulfillment? I just think having an opportunity to travel and to meet different people from various backgrounds, and having an opportunity to help shape and develop policies and regulations around international sports.
You just listen. You just out there. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we could go so much deeper into what she does. You know, she's just being light with it. You know, she can really get on her high horse and look down on everybody and brag about it.
Never.
She's not that person, though. She's not that kind of person.
Never.
Though.
Wasn't raised that way.
Wasn't raised that way. So we're built different, ladies and gentlemen. We're genuine individuals.
We are very authentic. Very authentic.
So what are you most focused on now in your life?
I'm focused more on growing, continuing learning, new things, continue developing. I am a trustee of my alma mater. I am co-chairing the athletic committee. I am focused on my philanthropic efforts on the continent. Like I said, I've traveled to 32. You know, I got a couple more to go, and then I can say I've traveled to all the countries in Africa, and just leaving this place better than which I found it. And so, I'm going to focus on enjoying the process as I go instead of flying through. I remember people telling me I have been to some amazing places, and I haven't really took in what that country is known for from a tourist standpoint.
Right.
So when I went to Shenzhen, China, I had someone tell me, you must see the pandas. So I saw the pandas. And so on my birthday, I went to see, this is my birthday. Last year, I went to see, I was in Rwanda for the launch of NBA Africa.
Right.
And I had an opportunity to trek gorillas in the rainforest and hiked in the rainforest for about 8 hours looking for gorillas, and we found them. And now I said for my birthday going forward, I will be on the continent on my birthday exploring something of somewhere that I haven't been. And so I'm just excited about, learning more and doing more and having a process of laughing and living throughout the process.
Living in the moment. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, be in the moment.
And enjoy, the fruits of your labor. And when you are working and you're in these places, because even with me being on tour with Stuck Mojo and going places in Europe, you really didn't have, the time to enjoy the culture as much as you would like to. And it was just like, in Europe, it was like one country to another country, one country to another, the next day. So it was just like, man, this is crazy. But, you still see some of the beauty of what's there. And, I suggest everybody, if they're able to travel this world and enjoy the sights and what's different out there.
But that's the military brat in you. That's because that's what you did all your life.
Right.
So imagine telling a civilian who's never left the state the same thing. It's a comfort level. I think our comfort level is, if we don't go, then, we feel like something's wrong.
Right, indeed. I just try to tell everybody, man, just get out there and enjoy yourself, because it's a beautiful world out there. And through music, I've met so many people. I've met so many people that are, good friends of mine to this day. They're more than they were maybe fans, but now they're friends of mine. And so, they're always like, hey, if you want to come to Spain, you want to come to Germany, you want to come here, I went to Russia. Russia was amazing. I know.
Yeah, Russia is amazing. I've been, for the World Cup.
Yeah. Russia was amazing. We had a great time in Russia. It really was. But I just want to thank you, young lady, and thank you for your time. And I'm going to speak for we as the ones that Greg and I and Wayne and Gerald and Sterling and all of us, we just want you guys to know we're proud of you guys. And we mean that. No, seriously. And your family and all your accomplishments and continued success in all areas of your life, young lady, most definitely, because it's been a pleasure of mine to have you here. I've been totally honored. This was very, very good for me, and it just took me back. It was like a time machine. I feel good, and I just appreciate it. So I'm going to ask you one more question before I let you go. What music did you listen to today, or have you listened to any music today?
what music did I listen to a lot of jazz, but uh, one of the things I listen to, I'm gonna look at my phone because I listen to it. Um, my One of my girlfriend's sons put this on my Instagram. It's Hall of Fame featuring Will I Am.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yes.
look at you.
Yes.
Look at you.
Hall of Fame.
I just know music is life, and I just love music. So I have to.
I do too. I do too. Yeah, I do
Okay.
too. And so one of the things I want your listeners to do, if they don't do anything else, continue to write and fight to free Brittany Griner, who's actually we talked about the Russia we visited. It's totally different in the Russia that's going on now. So I just want your listeners to remember and to write to their congressmen and people to definitely fight to get her home.
Indeed.
And sometimes people forget they worship you when you're on the court. You can get all these accolades, but when you get in a situation, even though if she should have known better or not, she's still a citizen of the United States, and we must do whatever is possible to get our citizens back home.
Right.
And if nothing else, I just hope your listeners will reach out and realize the power of their voice and also the power of what they're in writing together can accomplish a world of transformation.
I was going to ask you if there's anything else that you wanted to say. Let everybody know whatever you wanted to say was fine to me, and so you just said it.
Yeah.
So it's all love. Now, is there anything that if people, I don't know if it's about people reaching you about your business or anything like that. Is there anything else you want to let everybody know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just, we, the World Cup is ending for us in Qatar. It's coming into the U.S. and, we are in a process of reevaluating a lot of things where we are, but we're still going to be doing the same niche, but we're probably adding other stuff around media, sports, infrastructure. As the world is changing, we are changing, and our focus around artificial intelligence and how in sports performance and how they link in what we see today. So on the technology side, fintech and sports, artificial intelligence sports, we're very cutting edge with that and continue hopefully in growing that area of the business.
She's just doing work. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been my pure pleasure to have this young lady, to see her grow up, just to see her grow up. We were all just kids. And now
we are still kids at heart. I'm still a kid at heart. I'm still a kid at heart.
Well, when I call people, there might be somebody who's 80, 90 years old. I'm like, how you doing, young man? How you doing, young lady? That's just me. And they're just like young. And they're like, I'm this old. And I was like, is there somebody older than you that you know? And they were like, yeah. I said, well, you'll always be a kid to them. And
always.
Yeah, I said, that's just the life, and they just smiled at me. So, but Nichelle, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. This has been super, super great. I don't know what else to say. I'm just happy.
I think you're gonna inspire me to write a book. I think that's probably one of my fears is to write, the story about the Gainey family, a great American family.
You should.
I've trademarked it. So I think this interview has propelled me to think bigger than myself and to talk more about my family and the accomplishments of my family and where I came from. And the people that helped me, and I tell you, Fort Jackson made me and helped me to who I am today. And each and every one of those names that you mentioned, they're still family to us to this day. It's not one day that we look back in our memories that we don't mention one of the names that you mentioned.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So listen, I'm just thankful and grateful once again for you taking the time. And I know you were super busy, so I really, really appreciate it. But of course, we'll stay in touch. And
yes, please. You got my now we know a better way to communicate.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Listen, I've always been a person where I don't like to bother people too much. I'm just that.
Don't ever say that.
No.
People will let you know when they're being bothered.
Right, but but a lot of the guys, like I'm on the CMS Network now, classic CMS Network with my man Chris Aiken, and a lot of the guys that told me, they were just like, "Oh man, you gotta go out there and just be yourself. You gotta you're Lord Nelson from Stuck Mojo. You know, a lot of times I was just like, oh yeah, okay, I'm good. You know, but they're like, nah, you speak about that. You just be you.
Do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
be the person that you are. So anyway, it's all love.
Call me when you're in Atlanta, and I know we gotta go.
And just like I said,
it's all one love.
My sister's down there, my kids are down there. Well, you know, my twins are down there, and it's just look, we definitely come down. So,
okay,
it's all love.
All the best, my friend, from my family to yours.
Yes, indeed.
The Gainies, say hello. Gainies, right? The Gainey family.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is yours truly, the Lord Nelson. That is the big guy on the little show. Big guy on the little show, and with our special guest, and I'm so honored to have you, Miss Nichelle Gainey. Tap you up again. Thank you so much, young lady. Thank you so much.
Peace and blessings, my friend, and see you soon.
With NBA Beyond Borders and the SEEDS program that was in Senegal. And I saw how important it was and the reaction of the players and the development. And so being a part of this for over 10 years, I would not miss an opportunity to celebrate in a historic moment for the National Basketball Association, especially the basketball aspect. It's an exciting time. And so the caution is coming to a level of perfection. So why not?
It's an extremely amazing right now. How do you feel being part of that?
Oh, it's really
Loud with the Lord, Captain Rob, full aboard, free of charge, can't afford to miss it, we won't be ignored. No need for knocking, come on in, bring your family and your friends. Got you geeked and tuning in, you two watching or listening. Music is the major topic, enjoy audio erotic. When the merch arrives, no copy, help me monetize and profit. Mix the genres up like salads, rock to reggae, face the ballad.
Turn it up. You're listening to Live and Loud with the Lord Nelson, that is.